Admiral Tamin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars disappear one by one. The enemy ships moved like a dark cloud across space, eating everything in their path. His blue skin turned pale as he counted the losses. 12 Federation. Ships gone in the last hour. 36 more badly damaged. Sir, the enemy is moving toward Valonis Prime, his second officer reported. The young Viridian's voice shook with fear. They will reach the planet in 4 hours. Tamin closed his eyes. Valonis Prime was home to 40 million beings, families, children, artists, scientists, all peaceful people who had never known war. The Federation had protected them for 800 years. Now he was about to fail them all. The Kethvar swarm moved like nothing the Federation had ever seen. They were not alive, but they were not simple machines either. Each ship was part of a giant mind that thought only of one thing: destroy and consume. They turned planets into metal and energy to build more ships. They had been doing this for thousands of years, moving from galaxy to galaxy. Admiral, incoming message from the Federation Council, his communications officer called out. The main screen flickered to life. Council leader Wu Jin appeared, his green skin looking tired and old. Behind him, other council members from different worlds sat in their chairs, all looking worried. Admiral Tamin, what is your status? Wu Jin asked. We cannot stop them, council leader, Tamin said. The words hurt to speak. Our weapons barely scratch their ships. Their tactics are perfect. They learn from every battle and get stronger. One of the council members, a tall being with 4 arms, leaned forward. What about the new shield technology from Zephyr Station? Tested and failed, Tamin replied. The Kethvar adapt to our defenses within minutes. They are not like any enemy we have ever faced. Dr. Elena Bach, the Federation's top scientist, appeared on another screen. Her orange fur was messy, and her large eyes looked tired. She had been working for days without sleep, trying to find a solution. Admiral, I have been studying their attack patterns, she said. The Kethvar fight with pure logic. They calculate the best way to win with the least loss. But they have one weakness. What is it? Wu Jin asked quickly. They cannot understand chaos. They cannot predict behavior that makes no logical sense. But we are a peaceful people. We fight with honor and rules. We are too predictable. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what she meant. The Federation had grown soft during 8 centuries of peace. Their weapons were meant to disable, not destroy. Their tactics were designed to save lives, even enemy lives. Against the Kethvar, this kindness was a fatal weakness. Sir, the communications officer's voice was urgent. Long-range sensors show more Kethvar ships jumping into the system, hundreds of them. Tamin felt his heart sink. The Federation had sent everything they had to this battle. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. If they lost here, there would be nothing left to protect the core worlds. Council leader Wu Jin spoke again. Admiral, I am authorizing Protocol 7. The bridge crew gasped. Protocol 7 had never been used. It was the last resort, created for the end of everything. It meant sending a distress call to unknown space, hoping anyone might help. Sir, that is very dangerous, Dr. Bach warned. We know nothing about the species in the Orion Arm. They could be hostile. They could be worse than the Kethvar. They could not be worse, Wu Jin said sadly. At least they would be different. The Kethvar will kill everything if we do nothing. Admiral, Tamin nodded slowly. I understand, Council Leader. Preparing to transmit emergency beacon. Dr. Bach worked quickly at her station. I am including our star charts, tactical data about the Kethvar, and basic mathematics. If there are intelligent beings out there, they will understand we need help. What about the location? Asked the communications officer. Target the 3rd. Planet in the Sol system, Dr. Bach said. Our probes detected radio signals from there 50 years ago. Primitive signals, but they showed intelligence. The young officer looked confused. But sir, that planet is classified as a death world, Class 12 hostile environment. Nothing intelligent could survive there. Dr. Bach smiled sadly. Nothing we know about could survive there. But maybe something we do not know about can. The signal was prepared. It contained everything the Federation knew about warfare. Their technology, their history, and their desperate need for help. It was aimed at a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, far away in uncharted space. "Signal ready, Admiral," the communications officer reported. Taman looked at the tactical display one more time. The HFY ships were getting closer, to Valonis Prime. Soon they would begin the harvest, turning millions of lives into raw materials for their war machine. "Send it," he ordered. The signal flew across space at the speed of light, carrying the Federation's last hope toward an unknown world. None of them knew what lived on that distant planet. They could not imagine beings so tough that they called a death world home. They had no idea that their distress call would wake something that had been preparing for war since the day it learned to think. On the planet Earth, deep inside a mountain in Korea, machines detected the signal. Computers analyzed the mathematical patterns and strange symbols. Scientists stared at screens showing star maps of distant galaxies and technical data about an enemy they had never seen. The message was clear. An ancient evil was destroying peaceful worlds, and someone was asking for help. Admiral Hyeon-Soo Park read the translated message 3 times before he believed it. Aliens were real. They were under attack, and they had asked Earth for help. He picked up his secure communication device and made a call that would change everything. "Mr. President," he said when the call connected, "we have a situation. You need to see this immediately." Meanwhile, in space above Valonis Prime, the HFY ships began their attack. Energy beams cut through the planet's defenses like paper. Cities burned. Ships fell from the sky like metal rain. Admiral Tae-min fought bravely, but he knew it was hopeless. His fleet was broken. His people were dying. All he could do was hope that somewhere in the dark space between stars, someone had heard their call for help. He did not know that his signal had reached a world where war was an art form, where beings fought not just to survive, but to protect others. He did not know that his desperate message had woken the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The Deathworlders were coming. The alarm woke Admiral Hyeon-Soo Park at 3 in the morning. His secure phone was ringing with the tone that meant only one thing. Something had happened that could change the world. He had heard that sound only twice before in his 20-year career with the United Earth Defense Fleet. "Admiral Park speaking," he said, sitting up in his bed. "Sir, you need to come to command immediately," said Commander Ji-Woo Kim, his head of operations. Her voice was steady, but he could hear excitement underneath. "We have received a signal from space. It is not from any human source." Park was already reaching for his uniform. "Alien contact?" "Yes, sir, and they are asking for help." 30 minutes later, Park stood in the underground command center beneath Seoul. The room was buzzing with activity. Scientists, linguists, and military. Analysts worked at dozens of computer stations. On the main screen, strange symbols and mathematical formulas scrolled past. Dr. Min-Ho Chen, Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact, approached the Admiral. His face was pale with exhaustion and excitement. "Admiral, this is incredible," Chen said. "The signal contains star maps showing thousands of worlds, technical specifications for weapons and ships, and a clear message asking for military assistance against something called the HFY swarm." "How do we know it is real?" Park asked. "This could be an elaborate hoax." Commander Kim joined them, holding a tablet computer. "Sir, the signal came from outside our solar system. The physics checks out. The star maps show constellations we can verify with our telescopes. And the mathematical concepts are more advanced than anything we have." She handed him the tablet. "But this is the most important part. They included biological data about themselves and their attackers." Park read the translated information. The aliens calling themselves the Federation were peaceful beings from worlds with gentle climates. They had never experienced true hardship. Their planets had no dangerous weather, no predators, no diseases. They had lived in peace for hundreds of years. Their enemy, the HFY, was different. They were machines with one purpose: to destroy and consume everything in their path. They had wiped out entire civilizations across multiple galaxies. "They are asking us for help?" Park said, looking up from the tablet. "They do not even know what we are." Dr. Chen pulled up another screen. "Actually, sir, they do know something about Earth. They classify our planet as a Class 12 death world. According to their data, nothing intelligent should be able to live here. Park almost smiled. A death world. If only these aliens knew the truth. Earth was not just hostile. It was actively trying to kill its inhabitants every single day. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, diseases, predators, parasites, poisonous plants, venomous animals, and 1,000 other dangers that had shaped humanity into what it was. What do we know about their military capabilities? Park asked. Commander Kim brought up tactical displays. Their ships are impressive, but their weapons are designed to disable rather than destroy. Their tactics are formal and predictable. They fight with honor and try to minimize casualties, even enemy casualties. And they are losing? Badly, sir. According to the data, they have lost 70% of their fleet in the last month. Park studied the alien tactical reports. The Federation forces fought like they were playing a game with rules. They gave warnings before attacking. They tried to capture enemy ships instead of destroying them. They retreated when their own losses became too high. It was admirable. It was civilized. It was honorable. It was also stupid. Sir, Dr. Chen said quietly, there is something else. The signal was sent as a desperate last resort. They are facing extinction. Park nodded. He had seen that desperation before, in the eyes of soldiers who knew they were about to die. But he had also seen what happened when desperate people found help from an unexpected source. He picked up his secure phone and dialed a number that connected directly to the President's emergency line. Mr. President, this is Admiral Park. I need to brief you on a situation that requires immediate attention. 2 hours later, Park stood before President So-Young Lee and the Emergency Security Council. The meeting room was deep underground, protected from any possible attack. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, military leaders, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence chiefs. Ladies and gentlemen, Park began, 12 hours ago, we received confirmation that we are not alone in the universe. More importantly, we have been asked to help fight a war. He presented the alien data, explaining the Federation's situation and the threat they faced. The room was silent as the implications became clear. Admiral, said General Dong-Hyun Song, head of Earth's ground forces, these aliens have technology, far beyond ours. Why would they need our help? Commander Kim answered. Because they have never learned to fight a real war. Their weapons are more advanced, but their tactics are weak. They think like peaceful beings who happen to be in a conflict. We think like warriors who happen to be at peace. President Lee leaned forward. Explain. Park stood and walked to the tactical display. Madam President, humanity has been at war for its entire existence, not just with each other, but with our planet itself. Every day, Earth tries to kill us. We have survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years, plagues that killed half our population, natural disasters that destroyed entire civilizations. We have fought against every form of life on our planet, from microscopic bacteria to massive predators. He pointed to images of human military equipment. Our weapons are designed to kill efficiently. Our tactics assume the enemy will do anything to win. We plan for chaos, deception, and desperation because that is how we have always fought. And you believe we can defeat this HFY swarm? Asked the Secretary of Defense. I believe we can. Fight them in ways they have never seen before, Park replied. The aliens say the HFY are logical, predictable machines. They learn from each battle and adapt, but they have only fought against civilized opponents who follow rules. Commander Kim added, humans do not follow rules in war. We break them. We use deception, sacrifice, and brutality when necessary. We fight dirty because clean fighting gets you killed. President Lee was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. What would you need? The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, Park said immediately. 200 ships, 50,000 crew members, our best weapons, and our most experienced commanders. That is nearly half our deep space capability. Yes, Madam President. But if we succeed, we will have allies among the stars. If we fail, the HFY may eventually find Earth anyway. The President looked around the table. One by one, her advisors nodded their agreement. Very well, Admiral. You have authorization to deploy the 3rd Fleet, but I want regular reports, and I want options for withdrawal if the situation becomes hopeless. Park saluted. Understood, Madam President. As the meeting ended, Dr. Chen approached the Admiral. Sir, there is one more thing. The aliens sent detailed information about their biology. They are fragile compared to us. What they consider extreme environments, we would call comfortable. What they call dangerous, we call normal. Your point, Doctor? They are going to be terrified of us, sir. When they see what Deathworlders look like, when they learn how we fight, they may decide we are worse than the enemy they asked us to fight. Park considered this. Then we will have to show them that sometimes monsters are exactly what you need to fight other monsters. The Admiral left the meeting room and began preparing for humanity's first interstellar war. He did not know that, across the galaxy, alien refugees were fleeing in terror from an enemy that consumed worlds. He did not know that peaceful beings were dying by the millions while their leaders searched the stars for hope. But he did know that Earth's children were about to meet the galaxy, and the galaxy was about to learn why some planets were called Death Worlds. The preparations began immediately. Ships were loaded with weapons designed for the hostile environment of space. Soldiers trained for battles against an enemy they had never seen. Engineers worked to modify Earth's military technology for interstellar warfare. In space, above Earth, the Third Expeditionary Fleet assembled. 200 ships, each one built for war by beings who understood that in the universe, only the strong survived. They were coming to help. They were coming to fight. They were coming to show the galaxy what happened when you asked Deathworlders for aid. The aliens had called for help. Earth was about to answer. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Federation space. Admiral Hyun-Soo Park stood on the bridge of the flagship Seoul, looking at the tactical display with growing concern. Instead of finding a strong defensive line, they had discovered chaos. Refugee ships filled the star system, hundreds of vessels of different shapes and sizes, all fleeing from something terrible. They moved without order, some damaged, others overloaded with passengers. It looked like an entire civilization was running for its life. Sir, we are receiving multiple distress signals, reported Lieutenant Nam Jin Ko, the communications officer. Different languages, but the translation computers are starting to make sense of them. Commander Ji-Woo Kim moved to the tactical station. Admiral, I am reading weapons signatures on some of those ships, but they are not firing at each other. They appear to be trying to protect the civilian vessels. Dr. Min-Ho Chen joined them on the bridge. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, he would be responsible for making first contact with alien species. His hands shook slightly as he checked his translation equipment. Sir, recommend we approach slowly, Chen said. These beings are clearly in distress. Any sudden movement might be seen as hostile. Park nodded. Reduce speed to 1/4 impulse. Signal all ships to maintain defensive formation, but do not target anything unless fired upon first. On the main screen, the refugee fleet became clearer as they approached. The ships were beautiful in their own way, with smooth curves and bright colors. They looked like they were built by artists rather than warriors, but many showed battle damage, scorch marks, hull breaches, missing sections. Sir, one of the larger ships is changing course to intercept us, Kim reported. It appears to be some kind of military vessel. The alien ship was long and elegant, colored in soft blues and greens. Compared to the angular, aggressive design of human warships, it looked almost fragile. But sensors showed it was heavily armed. Open a communication channel, Park ordered. The main screen flickered and then showed the bridge of the alien ship. The crew members were clearly not human, but they were close enough that the sight was not shocking. They had blue-green skin, large eyes, and moved with fluid grace. The captain appeared to be female, though it was hard to be certain. Unknown vessels, the alien captain said through the translation system. You are entering a combat zone. Please, identify yourselves and state your intentions. Dr. Chen stepped forward. This is Dr. Min-Ho Chen representing the United Earth Defense Fleet. We received a distress signal from the Galactic Federation requesting assistance against an enemy called the Kethvar Swarm. The alien captain's large eyes widened in surprise. She turned to speak with her crew in rapid musical language before turning back to the screen. Did you say Earth? She asked. The third planet of the Sol system? Yes, that is correct. The captain seemed to be struggling with the translation system. Finally, she spoke again. I am Captain Hywan Zorith of the Federation vessel Starweaver. If you are truly from Earth, then you are from a Class 12 death world. This is impossible. Why is it impossible? Chen asked. Nothing intelligent can survive on a Class 12 world, another alien voice said off-screen. The environment is too hostile, the gravity too strong, the weather too violent. It is a planet of death. Admiral Park moved into view of the camera. His scarred face and military bearing made several aliens on the other ship step backward. Captain Zorith, he said calmly, we are here to help. Our planet may be dangerous, but we have learned to survive in dangerous places. We have also learned to fight dangerous enemies. Captain Zorith studied Park's face for a long moment. Admiral, with respect, the HFY swarm has destroyed entire star systems. They have weapons that can crack planets. They have defeated every military force in this galaxy. What could beings from one small world do against them? Commander Kim joined the conversation. Captain, may we see your tactical data on recent HFY engagements? Yes, of course. Captain Zorith seemed confused by the request. But why do you want to see our defeats? Because sometimes you can learn more from how someone loses than from how they win, Kim replied. The next hour was spent reviewing Federation battle records. Admiral Park and his staff watched engagement after engagement, taking notes and asking questions. The alien refugees watched nervously as the humans studied their failures. Interesting, Park said finally. Captain Zorith, may I ask why your forces always announce their attacks before firing? To give the enemy a chance to surrender, of course, she replied. It is the civilized way to conduct warfare. And when your ships are badly damaged, why do you retreat instead of ramming the enemy vessels? Captain Zorith looked shocked. Because that would destroy our own ships and kill our crews? Yes, it would, Park agreed. But it would also destroy enemy ships and save civilian lives. The alien captain was quiet for a moment. Admiral, are you suggesting that we should sacrifice our own people? I am suggesting that sometimes sacrifice is necessary to protect others, Park replied. On Earth, we have a saying, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Dr. Chen added, Captain, humans have been fighting for survival since we first learned to think. Not just against other humans, but against our planet itself. We have faced ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and predators that could kill us easily. We learned that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to be willing to die for them. Captain Zorith translated this for her crew. Their reaction was immediate. Some looked horrified, others looked curious. One young officer asked a question in their language. Ensign Teho asks, the captain translated, if your world is so dangerous, why do you help others instead of just protecting yourselves? Park smiled. And for the first time, it was not a warrior's smile, but something warmer. Because a long time ago, we learned that the strong should protect the weak. Not because they have to, but because they can. Sir, Lieutenant Ko interrupted. Long-range sensors are detecting incoming ships, large formation moving fast. The tactical display updated. Dozens of dark objects were approaching the refugee fleet. As they got closer, the sensors revealed the truth. HFY ships, angular, black, bristling with weapons. All civilian ships jump to hyperspace immediately, Captain Zorith broadcast. Military vessels, form defensive line. The refugee fleet began to scatter, but many of the ships were too damaged or overloaded to jump quickly. The HFY ships moved to intercept them, ignoring the Federation warships entirely. They are targeting the civilians, Kim observed. They want to harvest them. Admiral Park watched the tactical display for 3 seconds. Then he made the decision that would introduce the galaxy to human warfare. All ships, battle stations. Target the HFY formation. Rules of engagement. Destroy anything that threatens civilian vessels. Sir, Dr. Chen said quietly, this will be first contact. How we fight here will determine how the galaxy sees humanity forever. Then let's make sure they see us clearly, Park replied. Signal the fleet. Weapons free. Captain Zorith watched, in amazement as the human ships changed formation. Instead of the careful, defensive posture she expected, they moved with aggressive purpose. The ships were darker than Federation vessels, with sharp angles and heavy armor. They looked like what they were, weapons built by warriors. Admiral, she said over the communication channel. "Our ships will support your attack." "Negative, Captain," Park replied. "Protect the civilians. We will handle the Kethvar. But there are only 200 of your ships against 50 Kethvar vessels." "Then the odds are almost even," Commander Kim said with a cold smile. Captain Zorith did not understand what that meant, but she was about to learn why some worlds were called Deathworlds, and why their inhabitants were the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The human fleet accelerated toward the enemy, and for the first time in their existence, the Kethvar swarm was about to face an opponent that understood war not as a game, but as an art form painted in blood and sacrifice. The battle was about to begin. The Kethvar swarm moved through space like a school of mechanical sharks. Their ships were black metal and sharp angles, designed for one purpose: to kill and consume. They had destroyed 1,000 civilizations using the same tactics. Calculate the optimal attack pattern. Overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers. Harvest the survivors. The organic ships ahead of them should have been easy prey. The Kethvar Central Intelligence analyzed the newcomers quickly. 200 vessels of unknown design, primitive nuclear weapons, chemical rockets for propulsion, weak energy shields. The battle would be over in minutes. Admiral Hyan-Soo Park watched the enemy formation on his tactical display. 50 Kethvar ships in perfect formation, approaching at optimal speed. They moved like a computer program, which made sense since that was exactly what they were. "Sir, enemy vessels are hailing us," reported Lieutenant Nam Jin Ko. "Put them through." The main screen showed nothing but darkness and the cold gleam of metal. When the Kethvar spoke, it was with the voice of a machine trying to sound alive. "Unknown vessels, you will cease your advance and prepare to be harvested. Your technology and biological matter will be added to our collective. Resistance is futile." Park looked at the screen calmly. "This is Admiral Park of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are threatening innocent civilians. Withdraw immediately, or we will fire." There was a pause. Then, "Your weapons are insufficient to damage our vessels. Your tactics are primitive. You will be consumed." The communication ended. Commander Jiwoo Kim smiled coldly at her station. "Sir, they just made their first mistake." "What's that, Commander?" "They told us they analyzed our capabilities. That means they think they know how we fight." Park nodded. "Signal all ships. Begin Operation Chaos." Captain Haewon Zorith watched from her ship as the human fleet suddenly changed formation. Instead of the careful, organized approach she expected, the ships scattered in what looked like complete disorder. Some ships accelerated forward, others fell back. Still others moved off to the sides. "What are they doing?" asked her tactical officer. "They have no formation at all." But Captain Zorith was beginning to understand. The humans were not fighting like the Federation, with careful plans and predictable movements. They were fighting like wild animals. The Kethvar responded to the human movement by adjusting their own formation. Their computer minds calculated the new threat vectors and moved to intercept the scattered human ships. Everything was proceeding according to their programming. Then the humans opened fire. Federation weapons were precise and clean. They fired energy beams designed to disable enemy systems without unnecessary destruction. The Kethvar had adapted to such weapons long ago. Human weapons were different. They fired nuclear warheads that exploded in brilliant flashes of light and radiation. They launched kinetic projectiles that smashed into enemy hulls like hammers. They used chemical explosives that filled space with deadly shrapnel. But most shocking of all was how they used these weapons. Instead of targeting military systems, they aimed for maximum damage. Instead of trying to capture enemy ships, they tried to destroy them completely. The first Kethvar ship to die was the flagship. Captain Dalsu Vex of the human destroyer Incheon had targeted it with a full spread of nuclear torpedoes. The alien ship's shields flared and died under the assault. The hull cracked open like an egg, spilling metal and sparks into space. The Kethvar Central Intelligence paused for 0.3 seconds to process this new information. The organic ships were using primitive weapons, but in ways that no civilized species ever would. They were fighting to kill, not to capture. They were fighting like barbarians. The mechanical fleet began to adapt, but the humans were already changing tactics again. "All ships, execute pattern 7. Admiral Park ordered. Pattern 7 was something no Federation commander would have authorized. It was based on a tactic from ancient Earth naval warfare, the kamikaze attack. 3 human ships broke formation and accelerated directly toward the largest HFY vessel. Their nuclear reactors were overloading, their shields were down, and their crews had ejected in escape pods. The ships themselves had become guided missiles. The HFY tried to destroy the approaching vessels, but they were small and fast and coming from 3 different directions. 2 were hit and destroyed, but the third made it through. The explosion lit up space like a small star. When the light faded, the massive HFY mothership was gone, along with the 15 smaller ships that had been too close to it. Captain Zorith stared at her tactical display in shock. They destroyed their own ships? To save us, her tactical officer said quietly. To protect the civilians. Meanwhile, engineer Yu Jin Han was implementing another human innovation. Her ship, the Busan, had been equipped with a special weapon system based on Earth's long experience with microscopic enemies. Sir, deploying biological countermeasures, she reported to her captain. The weapon was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy HFY ships with brute force, it attacked them with something they had never encountered: engineered viruses designed to corrupt computer systems. The microscopic invaders spread from ship to ship through their communication networks. They were based on computer viruses that human programmers had been fighting for centuries, but modified to attack alien technology. One by one, HFY ships began to malfunction. Their perfect formations broke apart as individual vessels lost control of their navigation systems. Some ships fired on their own allies. Others simply stopped working entirely. The HFY Central Intelligence was experiencing something it had never felt before: confusion. These primitive organics were fighting with weapons and tactics that made no logical sense. They sacrificed valuable resources for no strategic gain. They used crude technology in sophisticated ways. They fought like they enjoyed it. Sir, Commander, Kim reported to Admiral Park, the enemy formation is breaking up. They are trying to retreat. Not yet, Park replied. Signal the fleet. Pursuit formation. We follow them until they are out of this system entirely. What followed was not really a battle anymore. It was a hunt. The humans chased the fleeing HFY ships through the asteroid field at the edge of the system. They used the rocks as cover, ambushing the mechanical vessels from hiding spots. They set traps using nuclear mines disguised as space debris. They fought dirty, and they fought smart. Captain Zorith followed the battle on her. Sensors, watching as the most feared enemy in the galaxy was systematically destroyed by beings from a death world. The humans used every trick they could think of: deception, sabotage, psychological warfare, and raw brutality. But they also showed something else. Every time a Federation ship was in danger, human vessels moved to protect it. When civilian transports were threatened, human fighters threw themselves between the enemy and the innocents. They fought like demons, but they fought to protect others. The last HFY ship died trying to escape into hyperspace. A human cruiser intercepted it at the jump point and destroyed it with a spread of torpedoes. The explosion was small compared to the earlier fireworks, but it marked the end of something important. For the first time in their existence, the HFY swarm had been completely defeated. Not a single ship escaped to carry word of what had happened here. Admiral Park stood on his bridge looking at the tactical display that now showed only friendly contacts. His fleet had lost 12 ships and nearly 3,000 crew members. The HFY had lost everything. Sir, Dr. Minho Chen said quietly, Captain Zorith is requesting permission to come aboard. Granted. Full honors for a fellow military officer. An hour later, Captain Zorith stood in the shuttle bay of the Soul, looking around with wide eyes. The human ship was clean and functional, but everything about it spoke of war. The walls were reinforced metal. The corridors were designed for rapid movement during combat. The crew moved with military precision. Admiral Park met her at the airlock, accompanied by Dr. Chen and Commander Kim. Up close, the aliens could see details they had missed on the screen. Park's uniform showed the wear of long service. His face carried scars from old battles. His eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much death. Captain Zorith, Park said with a respectful nod. Welcome aboard. Admiral, she replied, her voice shaking slightly. I need to ask you something. Are all Deathworlders like you? What do you mean? Do you all fight like that? With such violence? Park considered the question carefully. Captain, we fight like that because we have no choice. Our world taught us that sometimes violence is the only thing that protects the innocent, but we also learned something else. What? That the ability to destroy something makes it more precious to protect it. We know how terrible war can be, so we value peace. We know how easy it is to die, so we treasure life. Captain Zorith looked around the shuttle bay, where human crew members were helping injured Federation personnel from the refugee ships. Medics worked on alien patients they had never seen before. Engineers shared technical knowledge to repair damaged systems. I do not understand you, she admitted. You fight like monsters, but you act like saints, Commander Kim answered. Captain, we learned long ago that sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters. 3 months after the Battle of Zerion Nebula, Admiral Tae-min stood in the rebuilt command center of Velonis Prime. The planet had survived the Kethvar attack, barely. Half the cities were still in ruins, but construction crews worked day and night to repair the damage. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to feel hope. The reason for that hope sat across from him at the conference table. Admiral Hyun-Soo Park looked exactly as dangerous as the day they first met, but Tae-min had learned that human appearances could be deceiving. The man who fought like a demon in battle spoke like a diplomat in peace. Admiral Park, Tae-min began, the Federation Council has authorized me to negotiate terms for ongoing human assistance. What did you have in mind? Park asked. Council. Leader Wu Jin, appearing via holographic projection, leaned forward. We can offer technology transfers, trade agreements, and territorial concessions in the Outer Rim systems. Park was quiet for a moment, then shook his head. Council leader, with respect, we did not come here for payment. The alien leaders exchanged glances. Dr. Elena Bach, also attending by hologram, spoke up. Then what do you want? 3 things, Park replied. First, complete star charts of this galaxy. Not just Federation space, but everything you know about. Second, access to your historical databases. We want to understand the civilizations that came before, what they learned, what mistakes they made. And the third, Wu Jin asked, a mutual defense pact. Not as your hired soldiers, but as equals. Partners who watch each other's backs. The silence stretched for several seconds. Finally, Tae-min spoke. Admiral, you must understand our position. Humanity has proven itself capable in battle, but we know very little about your species. How can we form an alliance with beings we barely understand? Dr. Min-Ho Chen, who had been listening quietly, joined the conversation. That concern works. Both ways, Admiral. The Federation reached out to us in desperation, but now you must decide if you can trust the beings who answered your call. Over the next several hours, the negotiations continued. But the real breakthrough came when Captain Haewon Zorith brought up something that had been bothering her since the battle. Admiral Park, she said, I have studied the tactical recordings from our engagement with the Kethvar. Your forces suffered significant casualties, yet your crew maintained discipline and continued fighting. How do you train beings to accept such losses? Park looked uncomfortable. Captain, we do not train people to accept death. We train them to accept responsibility. Every human in that battle knew they might die, but they also knew their sacrifice might save others. But why? Pressed Dr. Bach. What drives a species to such self-sacrifice? Commander Ji-Woo Kim answered. Because we learned a long time ago that everything dies. Our planet taught us that. Individuals die, civilizations die, even species die. But what you do while you are alive, that matters. The lives you save, the beauty you create, the knowledge you preserve, that can outlast death. You speak like philosophers, observed Tae-min. We speak like survivors, Kim corrected. When you live on a world that constantly tries to kill you learn what is truly important very quickly. The conversation was interrupted when Lieutenant Nam Jin Ko entered the room with urgent news. Admiral, we have just received word from the Outer Rim. 3 Federation colonies have reported. Kethvar raids. Small forces, but they are testing our defenses. Park stood immediately. How long ago? The attacks began 6 hours ago, sir. Council leader Wu Jin looked alarmed. We thought the Kethvar were defeated. We defeated the ships that were here, Park said grimly. But the swarm is vast. They have been conquering galaxies for thousands of years. What we faced was probably just a scouting force. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The victory at Zerion Nebula had been real, but it was not the end of the war. It was barely the beginning. What do you recommend? Asked Taemin. Park looked at the star charts displayed on the wall. We need to take the fight to them, find their main forces and hit them before they can organize a real counterattack. That is extremely dangerous, Dr. Bach warned. We would be attacking into unknown space against unknown numbers. It is also our best chance, Commander Kim added. The Kethavar learn from every battle. The longer we wait, the more they will adapt to our tactics. Over the following weeks, a new kind of cooperation began to emerge. Human engineers worked with Federation scientists to develop new weapons and defenses. Federation navigators shared their knowledge of galactic geography with human tacticians. Most importantly, both sides began to understand each other. Dr. Elena Bach spent hours interviewing human crew members, trying to understand how beings from such a hostile world had developed concepts of mercy, justice, and self-sacrifice. Her findings surprised even her. Admiral Park, she said during one of their regular briefings, I have been studying your species' history. According to your records, humans have been fighting wars continuously for thousands of years. That is correct. But you have also been creating art, music, literature, and philosophy during the same period. How is this possible? Park smiled. Dr. Bach, humans learned long ago that war and peace are not opposites. They are two sides of the same thing, the desire to protect what you value. We fight wars to preserve our ability to create beauty. We create beauty to remember what we are fighting for. Meanwhile, young Federation officers were learning human, tactical principles. The lessons were often shocking to beings raised in a peaceful society. Ensign Tae Ho, the young officer from Captain Zorith's ship, attended a lecture by Commander Kim on asymmetric warfare. Commander, he asked, you say that sometimes the best strategy is to appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Is this not deception? Yes, it is, Kim replied. War is not a game with rules. It is a contest where the loser dies and takes innocent people with them. If deception saves lives, then deception is moral. But how do you know when to stop? How do you know when you have won? Kim was quiet for a moment. Ensign, you win a war when your enemy can no longer threaten the people you are protecting, but you win a peace when your former enemy becomes your friend. The real test of this new alliance came 6 months later, when joint Federation human task forces began striking at Kethvar staging areas in the outer galaxy. The battles were fierce, but the combined forces proved effective. Federation ships provided advanced sensors and energy weapons. Human ships provided aggressive tactics and raw firepower. Most importantly, both sides provided something the other lacked: perspective. Admiral Taemin, now commanding a joint task force, watched as human and Federation crews worked together on the bridge of his flagship. The cooperation was not always smooth. The species were too different for that. But it was effective. Admiral Park, he said during a quiet moment, I owe you an apology. For what? When we first met, I thought humans were barely civilized barbarians who happened to be useful in battle. I was wrong. Park raised an eyebrow. Were you? We are barbarians, Admiral. We come from a world that breeds killers. The difference is that we choose what to do with that nature. And what do you choose? To protect those who cannot protect themselves. To preserve beauty in an ugly universe. To prove that just because something is strong does not mean it has to be cruel. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent signal from the communication station. Sirs, we are receiving a priority message from Earth, reported the human communications officer. The message was from President So-Young Lee. Her expression was serious but hopeful. Admiral Park, the Federation Council has formally requested that Earth establish a permanent embassy on Volanus Prime. They have also requested that we consider joining the Galactic Federation as a full member species. Park looked at Admiral Taemin. What do you think, Admiral? Are you ready for Deathworlders as neighbors? Taemin considered the question carefully. Over the past year, he had watched humans fight and die for people they had never met. He had seen them show mercy to defeated enemies and kindness to refugees. He had learned that strength and compassion were not opposites, but partners. Admiral Park, he said finally, I think the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. 2 years later, Ambassador Soo-Jin Park stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Embassy on Volanus Prime. She was Admiral Park's daughter, but she had chosen diplomacy over warfare as her way of serving. Below her, the capital city bustled with activity. Human engineers worked alongside Federation architects to rebuild what the war had destroyed. Children from a dozen different species played in parks guarded by human and Federation security forces working together. A young Federation reporter approached her, seeking an interview for the Galactic News Network. Ambassador Park, the reporter, asked. Some critics say that humans are too violent to be trusted as partners in galactic civilization. How do you respond? Soo-Jin smiled, looking out at the peaceful city below. I would say that violence and civilization are not opposites. Civilization is what you build after you win the right to build it. And sometimes, winning that right requires people willing to fight for it. But surely there must be a better way. Than war? Of course there is, Soo-Jin agreed. Peace is always better than war. But peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice.